Hello there, here with a review. A band that I've never reviewed before on this channel, but I'm about to with their latest album, The Ballad of Darren, which is by Blur. Now, this is their latest album, like I say, and I'm not going to pretend I'm the biggest Blur fan in the world. I couldn't tell you massive amounts about them, like certain bands and things I've reviewed on this channel, but I do like Blur, and I gotta say, I really like this album. Obviously, I like it enough to pick it up on vinyl. Anyway, what we'll do here is I will show you this is the only copy I have. I will show you the vinyl I have here, and then we will talk a bit about it, and then do a track-by-track review, etc. But yeah, so anyway, this is the vinyl. This is the front cover. That's the back cover. And if we open it up, well, that is the sleeve. Got the lyrics on it. That's Darren. And the vinyl itself, it's just on black vinyl. So yeah, I won't bother getting that out. Right, I shall put that back in there. But yes, Blur. Like I say, a band, sorry, I've never spoke about on this channel really. I've maybe referred to them when I've been reviewing other things, but I've never directly reviewed Blur themselves. And to be honest, I don't really own that many Blur albums. In fact, this is the only vinyl Blur album I own at the minute. But I will probably buy some of their others, probably like Park Life and the self-titled from '97, etc. But I've been listening to this a lot this last week since it came out, and I just thought I'd review it because why not? It's a good album. Spoilers. So I shall dive into a bit about the background of this album, hopefully, because I'm not as familiar with Blur as I am other bands that I talk about. I won't go on for like 40 minutes here, so hopefully this video will be no more than 20 minutes. That's where I'm going to start, actually. Something I do like about this album, the running length. It's 36 minutes, which, you know, I think that is a good running length for an album. 36 should be somewhere between 35 to 40 minutes. I normally think it's a good running length for an album. Ordinarily, Blur albums, well, this is the shortest one they've ever released. Normally, I don't think they've ever released an album that's under 50 minutes, I read. So, yeah, it does annoy me when bands release really long albums that are unnecessarily long, because it just makes them hard work sometimes to listen to. Whereas if it's like 36 minutes like this, it's just a nice length to listen to. Anyway, this album, it was released on the 21st of July 2023. That was a week ago today. That was last Friday at the time of recording this. The album itself was recorded from January to May of 2023 at Studio 13 in London and Devon. I believe that's Damon Albarn's. I believe that's his own studio, Damon's own studio. The album was produced by James Ford, who of course is most famous for producing Arctic Monkeys. He's produced, I think, every Arctic Monkeys album except their debut. I think he's also worked quite a bit with Gorillaz and Graham Coxon's solo stuff. But yeah, speaking of Gorillaz, while Damon was on tour with them in 2022, he started writing and recording some demos, which would become the basis of this album. Those demos. By New Year's Eve, just gone, he demoed 24 songs, and only 10 of them have made this album, so if we ever see the other ones or not, we shall see. But I'm assuming those 10 must be the best 10, in his opinion. Anyway, speaking of Damon, he has said on record that to him this is the first legit Blur album since 13. I think 13 came out in 1999, so it's the first legit one since then, where the 4 of them have all been in the room when they've recorded it. So I think they've only done 2 albums in the period between 13 and this, which will be Think Tank and The Magic Whip. Again, I don't know too much about Blur, but I'm assuming by that quote what he means is they haven't all been in the room when they've recorded those 2 albums. They've just sort of recorded their parts individually and whatever. Anyway, in terms of the lyrical content of this album, they're all quite sad ballads, and they are all very much breakup songs. Very, very mature breakup songs, unlike Taylor Swift. But yeah, very good breakup songs. Which brings me to the question of, has Damon broke up from his girlfriend? Because I don't think he's actually said on record that he has. Maybe he has, and I've not heard the interview where he said it, but I don't think he has publicly said that it is directly about him splitting up with his long-term girlfriend. But it sounds like it. I mean, why else would he be writing songs like this? I was watching an interview Blur did with Apple Music the other day, and Damon said that he is a very sad 55-year-old man, and most people when they get to 55 are sad, which is a very depressing way to look at life, isn't it? But then aren't we all sad? Right, maybe we're not. Anyway, so yeah, he's not actually said what it's about, but if I had to speculate, yeah, I would say he's probably split up from his girlfriend. It would be the most logical thing. Listen to this. In terms of the genre of the album, it's been described by some as lounge and alternative 70s pop, which I'll go with that actually, because kind of fitting into that category sometimes is David Bowie. And I think of every single musician to ever exist, David Bowie is the first one you can think of when it comes to describing the sound of this album. It is very Bowie-esque, this album, and to be honest, if David Bowie was singing on this, I don't think you'd notice he hadn't wrote the songs, because they sound very much like the sort of thing he'd do. The artwork. I've been wanting to talk about this. I absolutely adore this artwork. This is some of the best artwork on an album I've seen in a long time. To be honest, I'm debating getting this framed, because yeah, I absolutely love this photo. The photo here, it's a 2004 photo of, and I'm about to pronounce this wrong, I'm sorry, Gurok, I think, Gurok outdoor pool. It's taken by Martin Parr. That there, it's kind of like the Firth of Clyde, I think. It's where the River Clyde heads out to sea. So it is kind of the sea, but it's not quite the sea, if I'm getting technical. So yeah, it's Scotland, obviously. It's just sort of west of Glasgow. But I just love like this album, the way it contrasts, like the blue colours with the sea and the clouds behind. And I think it was Dave Rowntree, the drummer, said to him this sort of signifies swimming through a storm, like stormy waters. I know the swimming pool isn't exactly a stormy water, but the sea's stormy and the cloud looks stormy, and this single lonely chap on his own in that pool is swimming through the storm, although there is actually another person there, but we'll just gloss over that. But yeah, this artwork, it's just, you know, when I walked in the shop and I seen this on the shelf, it just jumped out at me, and I was like, that is a good cover, especially when you looked at some of the other things beside it, like other contemporary albums, and I was like, that just jumps out. Just the colours, just the blue and the red. And anyway, I'm here to review the music, not the cover. But yeah, the cover, it's just, I mean, is it just me that thinks that's a brilliant cover? I mean, it might be their best album cover. I mean, really, it's just Martin Parr who needs the credit for taking such a good photo, but it's also a simple photo. Anyway, the album's title, obviously, The Ballad of Darren. Darren is a chap called Darren Evans, who has been close with the band for many years. I believe he was the band's bodyguard for a long time, and he still works for Damon, I think. But yeah, Darren, that's him, was originally going to be on the album cover. I think that was originally going to be the cover, but they decided that Darren wouldn't like the publicity that he would get with being on the cover, so they put him on the inner sleeve instead, which I'm pleased they did, because it would have meant we wouldn't get that cover, and it's a brilliant cover. Yeah, so far at the time of recording this, there's been 3 singles. There might be more come out in the future, but at the minute the 3 has been the lead single, which was The Narcissist, and then St. Charles Square and Barbaric have followed that up. Critically as well, this album has received a lot of praise. Yeah, it seems to be, from critics at least, mostly universal acclaim, I think, could be used to describe this. I don't think I've read any bad reviews about it. You know, the word mature is getting chucked about a lot, which, yeah, this is a very mature album. In terms of fan reviews, which are pretty much more important than critic reviews, a lot of people on the internet, or maybe not a lot, some people on the internet are arguing that this doesn't sound like a Blur album, it sounds like a Damon solo album with the other guys kind of supporting. But I don't know if I agree with that. You know, most fans seem to be enjoying the album, but there is the odd few on the internet ranting on that it doesn't sound like Blur, it doesn't sound like Parklife or The Great Escape or stuff like that. Yeah. But yeah, most people seem to be enjoying it. Anyway, at the time of recording this, the charts are announced in 20 minutes time. Obviously, by the time you're seeing this, they'll have been announced. So I'm going to put my head on the line here and say that this is a number 1 album. This got to number 1 and gave Blur their 7th number 1 album in a row. When the chart update got announced on Monday, it was outselling the rest of the top 10 combined. So I imagine it's going to be number one. I mean, if it's not number one, just ignore everything I've just said there. But it should be number one. The only thing I could see that would maybe dethrone it is if, because obviously, unfortunately, Sinead O'Connor died the other day. Rest in peace. She was a wonderful artist. She was. But if one of her albums have obviously managed to somehow get above this one, but I don't think they will have done, to be honest. Any of her albums. So, yeah, number one album. Well done, Blur. Or if you didn't get number one, considerations. But you did get number one. Let's be realistic. I should have just waited another 20 minutes to record this video. Anyway, that is all I've got to say for the background. I'm going to now go into the track by track review. There's 10 tracks on this album. I'm just going to review the standard vinyl, by the way. I know there is a deluxe CD and on the digital where there's 2 extra tracks, but I'm just going to talk about the 10 standard tracks. The opening track, anyway, is a song called The Ballad, which I suppose is technically the title track. So straight off the bat, I will tell you this is my favourite song on the album. I think this is a wonderful song, and it very perfectly captures the tone of this album. Basically, if you don't like this song, you ain't going to like the rest of the album. The sound of this is going to be a common thing I say here. This song sounds very David Bowie-esque. It's very much like sort of his later day stuff. Think of Where Are We Now? Off his 2013 album, The Next Day. It kind of sounds similar to that, in my opinion. I love the way this song builds. It starts with just Damon on his own on the piano, and then gradually the rest of the band come in. So Graham and Alex and Dave come in, and then an orchestra comes in, and it just builds up and builds up and builds up, and it's beautiful the way it does it. Like I've said before, it's kind of a breakup sounding. It sounds like Damon's been through a breakup or something. So the lyrics on here sound very sad. They're very much breakup style, the lyrics. In terms of this song, I believe Damon has had this song for a very long time, and I think on some EP released back in 2003, I think, there was a version of this, but this is a re-recorded version. Now, apparently Darren, their bodyguard, Darren, I won't get it out again, he really liked this song, and he was the one pushing for it to be finished. So they did it kind of for him, which is why they've called it the Ballad of Darren, because obviously the song The Ballad was what Darren really liked, so they called it the Ballad of Darren. Anyway, when I first listened to this album, this was the song that instantly grabbed me, and although Barbaric, as the third single, got released the day it came out, but beforehand I'd heard a little bit of The Narcissist, but not enough to really make an informed opinion on it. And St. Charles Square I hadn't heard before it came out. I purposely avoided them as best I could. So yeah, I didn't really hear much from this album beforehand. But when I first heard all 10 tracks, this was the one that jumped out to me the most. Great song. As is the next track, St. Charles Square, which I've just said there, was the second single from the album. So this album is predominantly ballads, slow songs, except this one. This is kind of the ugly duckling of the album. It's about the only rocker really on it, the closest thing you could come to calling a rocker. Again, very David Bowie sounding, this song. It sounds like a mixture of It's No Game of Scary Monsters, which coincidentally is the last album I reviewed, my last video, so if you want to see what I think of Scary Monsters, go and find it on my channel somewhere. It sounds like, anyway, the child of It's No Game and The Next Day, the song The Next Day, which is the title track of the same album. If those two songs had a child, it would sound like this, I think. I love the chorus of this song. Yeah, it just sounds very good, the chorus, and the way Damon sings it is very Bowie sounding. It's a brilliant song, and I love the lyric in it as well. Loneliness, I've been here before. You know, we've all been there, and then we escape it, and then we end up back in loneliness. It's something that's always there. You never escape it. The instrumentation on this song is also fab, especially Graham Coxon's guitar. It just sounds, very late 70s, sort of heavy, Bowie-esque guitar playing. Very good. Really like St. Charles Square. Right, next track is Barbaric. Very catchy tune, this one. I love the harmonies as well. The harmonies on this album throughout are pretty solid, but this song I think is where they're at their best in terms of the harmonisation between the band. Again, lyrics on this song are very sad. but that's kind of to be expected. But it's a great song anyway, and I love the line, all of us carry trauma. It's very true and very mature. We all carry trauma. I mean, I know Damon's 55, but you don't have to be 55 to be carrying trauma. I mean, I'm 25 and I would say I carry trauma. I imagine you watching this probably carry trauma, and if you don't, you're very lucky. But yeah, that line, all of us carry trauma, just, yeah, kind of hit me. I love the chorus on this one as well. The line, we have lost the feelings that we thought we'd never lose. Kind of a relatable lyric at the minute. But yeah, again, it gives you that impression that has Damon been through a breakup or something to be writing a lyric like that. And again, funnily enough, it's very Bowie sounding. Damon's vocals mainly on this one, just a stylish singing him. But yeah, Barbaric, wonderful tune. Again, yeah, just a great song. Right, track 4, Russian Strings. Guess what? This song as well also sounds very Bowie. It sounds like a mixture of his Berlin trilogy from the late 70s and his last 2 albums. Yeah, it sounds much that more sort of Bowie style of music. I love the guitar on this song as well. And again, Damon, he sounds very sad singing this. The backing vocals as well on this song, the sort of like oohs and sort of, it doesn't sound like a choir, but just the way the band's singing the backing vocals, it just kind of elevates it to another level. And the strings are nice on this song. Yeah, good tune, Russian Strings. Right, track 5 is the Everglades, open bracket, for Leonard, close bracket. Right, so it starts off with a finger-picking guitar style from Graham, I imagine, Graham Coxon. It gives it a very sort of White Album sounding flavour, sort of like Dear Prudence, Julia, Blackbird, Mother Nature's Son, that style of guitar playing. Which is very nice. And then Damon's vocals come in, and I've described them as very angelic on this song. Now, Leonard in the title, I imagine that is Leonard Cohen it's referencing. I can imagine him singing this actually. I believe when Damon was on tour with Gorillaz last year, I think it was in Montreal he was staying, and there was a mural on the wall of Leonard Cohen, so I think that maybe inspired this song to a degree. The orchestration on this song is beautiful, and it's another sad ballad, but it's a brilliant tune. And yeah, but yeah, the finger picking guitar on this song, I love it. I really do like guitar finger picking. If I could play guitar, I would love to be able to play it in a finger picking style, because it's just the best. Oh, I don't think I've ever heard a song where it's had finger picking and it's been a bad song. It's just, yeah, they're always beautiful songs. Anyway, track 6 with the lead single, The Narcissist. The opening line on this, looked in the mirror, saw many people standing there. That is a brilliant lyric. It's like, I mean, it's kind of relatable to a degree. I imagine most of us can relate to a lyric like that, especially as you get older and you look back in the mirror and you're like, well, I was once that person, now I'm that person, then I was that person. It's getting quite deep, all this, isn't it? Brilliant song, this one, and the guitar on it is excellent. Of all the 10 tracks on this album, this was definitely the logical lead single. St. Charles Square could have perhaps been a good lead single as well, but then it has the line, it opens the line, I fucked up, which, yeah, is not obviously going to get played on the radio. And it doesn't really, St. Charles Square, represent the rest of the album brilliantly, whereas this does. So it was a logical lead single. The backing vocals on this are great. I love the way when Damon sings the line, the backing vocals, the rest of the band then repeat what he's just sung. It's a very nice style of backing vocals, that. It's just a great catchy chorus on this song. Really like The Narcissist, good tune. Right, track 7 is Goodbye Albert. It's a catchy little opening riff, this, which is unfortunately my favourite thing about this song. Yeah, the little riff at the start is very catchy. And the instrumentation on this song throughout is very, very fab. But unfortunately, the song itself, it's not really grabbed me all that much so far. It might grow on me as I get to know the album better over time, but at the minute, it's not really grabbed me. Of all the tracks so far, this is the one that's made the least impact on me. You know, I'm sitting here, and to be honest, I'm struggling to actually fully remember what Goodbye Albert sounds like, which isn't a good sign. But Damon, he sounds very sad on this song. It's a common trend, isn't it? and the vocal delivery has a very Bowie flavour to it. Very good. Right, track 8, we have Faraway Island. It opens with sort of like a bit of keyboard playing from Damon, I assume. And then the acoustic guitar comes in from Graham. And it just sounds very nice, that pairing of guitar and keyboard. A great song, this one. Yeah, I really like this one. The backing vocals, again, they elevate it to another level. It's a very sad sounding song, especially on the chorus where Damon's singing Faraway Island, I miss you. Yeah, I can't remember what comes after that. It's something like, you probably think I'm sad, but I'm not. It's not that exact line, but it's to that degree. But yeah, Faraway Island, I miss you. It's effectively saying that whoever this person is he's split from, which must be his girlfriend, let's be realistic, is now a faraway island and he misses her. Same. Yeah. So that's all I've got to say about Faraway Island, looking at my notes here. So yeah, it's a great song, really. Track 9 is Avalon. I think that's how you pronounce it, Avalon. There's some nice sort of little horns on this song. I do like some of the horn section on the tune, and it's nice and subtle on this one. I love the way the tone changes as well during it, and there's I think it happens twice in the song where it suddenly gets heavier and then it sort of calms down again, and then it gets heavier and then it calms back down. Instrumentation's fab on this one, but just like Goodbye Albert, it's not massively grabbing me, this song. It's not one of my favourites. It might grow on me in time, but as things stand, it's not really. I like the closing track, The Heights, which is a brilliant song. It's a brilliant closing track, this. It starts off with a very sort of lo-fi sounding acoustic guitar. A bit of a Lou Reed, Velvet Underground kind of vibe, which, yeah, I really like that acoustic guitar style at the start. And then the opening lyric when Damon starts singing, suppose I'm on my own tonight. What a great lyric. What a wonderful piece of music that is, singing something like that, I suppose I'm on my own tonight. Wonderful. Now, if you've ever heard the song Emily White by DMAs, this song, in its instrumentation at least, in parts, not the whole way through, but especially at the beginning, the first maybe minute or a minute and a half, it sounds very similar to that. It reminds me of that. Yeah, I really like Emily White by the DMAs, so naturally I'm going to like this song as well. Once again, Damon, funnily enough, is singing this in a very Bowie-esque style. He's very good at it, really. Yeah, getting away with it very well here. The instrumentation on this song is brilliant, and there's some very subtle but nice orchestration on this song. And then there's the outro. It just gets louder and louder and louder and louder, and then suddenly it cuts off. Just cuts dead, and that's the end of the album. What a brilliant way to end an album, where it just cuts off like that. But yeah, The Heights, brilliant song, brilliant closing track to a brilliant album. So that is all I have got to say here about the Ballad of Darren. Yeah, it's a brilliant album. If you haven't heard it, I do genuinely strongly recommend listening to it. I know I've said Goodbye Albert and Avalon. Hasn't massively grabbed me, but I'm not going to say they're bad songs either. And they might grow on me, and I might end up enjoying them as much as the rest of them on this album. But I mean, the cover alone is brilliant. I love the cover. But yeah, I hope we get more Blur albums soon. And I hope, because I'd rather have this than I'd rather have Blur albums and Damon and his cartoons personally. But some more soon, please, if possible. I hope we're not going to wait another 8 years for this one. Anyway, that's all I've got to say. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you very soon. Ta-ra!